Hello everybody, this is Erica with you today on XDA Developers TV, and I have before me three flagship phones on the market. This is the Galaxy S3, this is the HTC One X, and last but not least, this is the iPhone 5. Yes, I know, boo! But you know what, really, this is not a comparisons video on iOS versus Android, so keep your rude and snide remarks to yourself. This is actually a video on comparisons between the different screen technologies. You've got Super AMOLED, and then you've also got LCD technologies. I really want to compare those two, talk about what makes up these technologies, and really talk about the good points and the bad points to help you decide which is the best display technology for you. Especially if you're in the market to be getting a new cell phone sometime soon, or if you're just curious, so come with me and we will check it out! The first thing to note about AMOLED technologies versus LCD technologies is that they are very different in structure and how they work. LCD screens are made up of liquid crystals that do not emit any light by themselves. This means that they need an external light source, such as a backlight, which is basically just white light that passes through the layers of the glass of the LCD screen. There are two layers of glass in an LCD screen which are polarized, and every pixel, which is called a nematic pixels, has a nematic structure, is able to turn and let the light through depending on the voltage that is applied to it. The LCD screens that we use today are called active matrix, which means that every single subpixel has its own transistor. So depending on the voltage that is applied to it, a certain amount of light can be let through. For color LCD screens, there is a filter, which one will be red, green, or blue. So if you apply a specific voltage to your red pixel, it will turn in a way to let a certain amount of light through. There's actually 256 shades of red you can create depending on the voltage intensity. Same thing applies for the green, and the same thing applies for the blue. Altogether, these wavelengths combine together to be the color that you see. In a Super AMOLED screen, also known as an OLED screen, which is really just organic light emitting diode, it is a lot more of a simple structure than you have with LCDs. So you don't need any of those polarizers or any of the filters. The pixels themselves emit light. Really how that process works is by having a cathode and an anode. You will have a current that goes through the organic layers from the cathode to the anode. The cathode will inject electrons into the emissive layer, and the anode will actually subtract ions from the conductive layer. The reaction that takes place is that there are atoms now that are missing an electron, so they are considered unstable. So you'll have the electrons that are passing from this layer here. They will fill the power levels of the atoms that are now missing an electron from the anode, and as that happens, they release energy in form of a photon, which you see as light. So that's what is being emitted from the organic LEDs. Depending upon the type of the organic layer that is being used, you will get a red, green, or a blue pixel. So it's the same as LCD screens. You're going to have a combination of colors of red, blue, and green that combine together to make the actual color that you're seeing. Also, just like LCD screens, AMOLED screens, the AM actually stands for active matrix, they are active matrix as well, meaning that still every single pixel has its own transistor to control whether the pixel is on or off, or the intensity of light that is being projected from it. Alright, that was a lot of information, so now it is time for a string cheese break. You can't have any. No! Now that we've covered all that crap with the basics, let's look at some displays, shall we? With high-quality LCD screens today, which are mostly IPS, which means in-plane switching, they've got two transistors instead of one, really gives them a lot better color saturation and also has much better viewing angles. I've been given sort of a pretty complex because of the stripe pattern that you have here. It goes red, green, blue, red, green, blue, red, green, blue. And as you go over here, you see that this is an AMOLED display. This is actually a Super AMOLED HD display in a pentile arrangement. You can see it goes green, red, green, blue, green, red, green, blue. So what's really happening here is it's kind of a screen door effect caused by the fact that there are less red and blue pixels in this display. There are actually only two subpixels per pixel. You have a green and a red, and then you have a green and a blue. And when you have a stripe pattern here, you have three subpixels. So you are tricked into thinking that there are just as many pixels, and there really aren't, so it's not quite as HD as HD AMOLED says. So right here, for your viewing pleasure, we have two true HD screens here. They are both the same technology. This is called Super LCD 2, and this is it's an IPS display. Both the iPhone 5 and the HTC One X both use IPS screens, and really just because of copyright infringements, they're not allowed to be called the same thing, but really they're the same thing. This is the HTC One X, and it has 312 pixels per square inch. Now let's go grab that iPhone 5 and check out this difference. Same icon here that we can compare side by side. This is 326 pixels per square inch. Really, both look fantastic to me. Only when I'm watching videos can I really see a difference between these displays, but it's going to be such a hard choice to decide between them. They're both fantastic. I got kicked out from my perch. Had to change locations. So here we have the iPhone 5 and the HTC One X side by side, and really the only discernible difference that I see is the color calibration as chosen by the manufacturer. It seems that the HTC One X is a little bit more of a vibrant color to it. It has a little bit of a yellow hue, as the iPhone 5 seems to be a little bit more accurately calibrated, if I dare to say. So really, the pixel density, you can't tell really at all. So the display choice is your decision. It's the same exact technology. Viewing angles from these IPS displays is absolutely astounding and is equal between both of them, as they are the same technology. Here is your Google Chrome icon on the Galaxy S3. You can see there evidence of those missing subpixels. It is not nearly as sharp as it is on the other displays. Let's go ahead and pull those into shot so that you can see that. Aha! You see what I'm saying here? So from far away, you may not notice a huge difference, but when looking at text and other things, it definitely looks more pixelated than the true HD screens. So that is just for your consideration, so you can really see those differences. When comparing the colors to the IPS displays, it is really very saturated. A lot of people really like those punchy, cartoony colors because it gives more of a wow factor that the LCD screens don't give, but really I think that the IPS displays do quite well with producing very saturated colors as well.
Hey Bruiser! Hey Bruiser! Hey Bruiser!
Here we have all three phones in direct sunlight, and they all are on maximum brightness. You can see that they all do relatively pretty well as far as readability. For all three devices, once you start to turn down the brightness to about halfway, it becomes increasingly harder to read the screen. Now I have to give a bunch of props to AMOLED displays because before they used to be really hard to read in sunlight, and now they pretty much reach match for match the abilities of LCD in sunlight as well. So really not too shabby. I really love LCD screens and the maturity of the technology and how stable it is and how easy it is to produce now without issues. But when I look at AMOLED displays, I know that I am looking at the future of display technology. So really, what are the advantages of AMOLED screens over LCD screens? Well, they are thinner as they don't need the polarizing layers or the filters in them. They also have the potential to use less power because each pixel lights itself. There is no backlight required. The refresh rate of the screen is actually much faster, so on some LCD screens you'll see ghosting sometimes with fast moving images. That is not an issue with AMOLED displays. It's pretty awesome. Super AMOLED displays have a higher color gamut than LCD displays do, so you can produce much punchier colors, also has a better contrast ratio. AMOLED displays also don't have to be printed on glass. They can be put on a plastic substrate, which means that they can be all bendy-like, and that should be interesting. I know Samsung's going to be coming out with some type of interesting display probably this year. And the Galaxy Note 2, which is coming out, whoop whoop, is actually not going to be a pen-pal arrangement anymore. It looks a little strange, really, and here's an image so you can see what that looks like. But there seem to be now 3 subpixels per pixel. But there is one thing that really concerns me about AMOLED displays is really the lifetime of the display. Let me show you what I mean. A major downfall of AMOLED displays is that they suffer from blue pixel burn-in. Blue pixels are very high energy and they wear down faster than either the green or the red pixels. So unfortunately, you can see my status bar here as I'm moving it about. You can see that there is a line that starts just about here and extends all the way across the screen. It is lighter in coloration here than is the rest of the screen, so that those pixels just become less vibrant as they are constantly exposed over time. That is really sad because some images I see, some wallpapers, I can start to see this retention. Not only that, but several months after that, you know, this was after 3 months, after a couple months after that, I started seeing my lovely keyboard burned in as well. You can kind of make out some of the image retention here and there. So that is really very sad, and it's something that I hope that display manufacturers, especially Samsung, work to prolong the lifespan of the blue pixels, because it's a major downfall for me. Now, I get questioned a lot and people act like I'm a bit crazy that I have status bar burn-in, because they say, well, you can see that the status bar is black, so that means that the pixels are off. So if the pixels are off, then you shouldn't be getting burn-in in that area. Well, that is a misconception with this screen. Let me show you that actually it isn't entirely black. There is still some light being emitted through these pixels here. So I have a very fast shutter speed right now, and there's nothing in front of the camera. Now here is the phone. Check that out there. Can you see that there? There is light being emitted from the screen. So that would explain why the status bar and the keyboard are being burned in. Those pixels are static. They're staying that same color the entire time, and they just sit there wasting energy and letting the screen wear down. You should be able to actually just go into your bathroom or a dark room anywhere. You can see this yourself with your screen on any type of black image. As for why this happens, we are not exactly sure why. It just seems to be light that is leaking. So that means that black can't be true black, because true black is the absence of light, and there are photons being emitted as we are staring at this. So it's very close to black, but not quite black because of the light that is still being emitted from it. One other big downside of Samsung's panels, at least, is that since Super AMOLED displays have a really high color gamut, it's easy to oversaturate the displays. So with several of Samsung's phones, the color response curves were just really strange. Colors would oversaturate. There'd be clipping of several different colors, black clipping, troubles with shadows, you name it. Somehow they made interesting mistakes. But with the Galaxy S3, it seems that Samsung had finally gotten it right, and the Samsung mobile division had, well, added their own little craziness to it. Let me show you this. Super Curio, yay, Super Curio, has created an application called Display Expert, which is in beta right now. He has not released it, but I want to show you what it can do for your display, so watch this. So right now, Display Expert is not activated, and I'm going to show you just a couple seconds of the very beginning of the Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows movie, part 1. You will see the WB symbol, and it's horrible. The shadows are off, there's clipping, the contrast is weird, so are the colors. Watch this. Terrible. Looks awful. Very, very awful. So let's go ahead and run the same clip with Display Expert activated, which is going to get rid of all of that nonsense that Samsung has applied to this display. So look at this. It looks so much more bright. It's not clipping anymore. The colors are accurate, at least to my eyes. Yeah, this is made a very, very big difference. Kudos, Super Curio. This is really awesome. So Super AMOLED can look really great for movies and have a really fast refresh rate, but if the manufacturer decides to add a bunch of weirdness, then it can look really oversaturated and absolutely awful. So yeah, that's just something to note. I hope Super Curio releases that soon to the public. One thing to note is that there are differences between the calibration for the international version, this is the international version, and the United States version. So we'll see what he does with his application for the United States version if he does release one for the United States. So this has been Erica with XDA Developers TV. Thank you so much for watching. It is now time for me to go to sleep finally. I hope you understand the differences now between the different display technologies, some advantages and disadvantages of both technologies, and overall what will be the best one for you. So have a wonderful night. Please rate, comment, and subscribe to this channel. Also, please go over to my channel, which is the Angel of Music 1989, where I do reviews and all kinds of other things on there, and subscribe to that as well. I will have a link down here, and it should be saying something about me somewhere. So, have a wonderful evening, and good night.